Hello, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and it is Sunday, December the 10th, 2017, and I'm with Lisa Rush and BZ Rigger for another conversation this evening. Thank you both for joining me. I should say welcome to our show because I love having these conversations with you ladies. It's awesome. So I don't know, where shall we begin?
I gotta get Rudolph off my mind.
You're still thinking about the light? Well, for those of you who might be wondering, we were having lighting issues with BZ. She had a bright light right about the middle of her nose.
She's so shiny. She can't help it.
It wasn't red.
Well, that's what I said. It was your inner light just emitting right out through your nose, causing a glare on your computer screen. So I'd like to talk about, first of all, how the energy has really ramped this afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean,
I felt it about 1 o'clock. Yeah, it's been a steady. I noticed my body started going into overwhelm and maybe a little bit of panic. I don't think I let it get too far into panic. I just did some extreme self-care and had a little nap and got myself on my massage bed, and it felt wonderful to take good care of myself. So I'm feeling better now.
Well, you must have been hiding behind the doors because I felt the maybe it's a pre-ramp, and I'm on the West Coast, so I'm later than you guys are.
Okay.
But when I get up, I was working today, and when I get up to I'm on 24/7 right now, so when I get up to do the outside portion of all sorts of various things, I got up and I took a step, and I was going to take a shower and do this, that, and the other thing, and it was probably 6 something. And I thought, okay, this is going to be one of those days. Because I had several right in the lower mid back where where the soul is coming in now, and everything's changing because of your whole new communication system that's coming online and enhancing and basically enhancing and totally revamping. Is in the seat right there, and
Sure.
And your soul is coming in.
I felt that. That's why I got on the chi bed, because I knew I could. We call it the chi bed. It's a Sarah Gem Master. It uses jade to emit far infrared, and it's about alignment of your spine to get your chi moving and meridians open. And I find that helps me when I feel stuck like that. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I wasn't stuck. I was going supernova.
Well, okay, yeah, that's a better way of looking at it. Like I just had too much going on. Yeah. I've also noticed it here at the base of my skull, and I almost feel as though my lymph is overwhelmed, and so I'll massage it and encourage it to move along to like release it. Things get cloggy feeling, and my sinuses are really full. I don't know if that's part of it or...
Well, the sinus usually is a releasing of something because it starts to move things. My no fail is, even if I can only do it for 5 minutes, is a hot shower, and I'm envisioning all those codes and energy coming through the shower, so it's very soft.
Oh.
And it's warm because it's cold outside, so it's warm, and It's just pleasant. And actually this morning, I have to look up the article. There's an article that I published a while ago on the IV, but they describe that of the fourth property of water. Usually think of water as liquid and frozen and vapor, but there's a fourth quality that has to do when the molecules are super excited because of the oxygenation in it, and the shower will mimic that. So if you happen standing over, like if there's a little bridge over a stream or something and you stand on top of it, it's not only is it pretty and you like the music of it, but it's actually very beneficial for you because all the water molecules are excited as they go over the rocks and over the stream. So it aerates.
This is Lisa. We've actually discussed this. Remember when I was sharing with the ladies and you about the fourth phase of water and how what the water we drink is very much, I feel very
excited, the water.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Okay.
I'm going to have some right now.
I'll pull the article and what I'll do is make it sticky on the front page of the IUV. It wasn't that long ago that I republished it, but anyways, it's a great way because it goes through a lot of scientific documentation so you can see it.
Sure.
But you can also feel into the article and you go, oh. So anyways.
Yeah,
that's my no fail is it's not the waking up part. I think maybe getting me at a better level of the super excited molecules so that all of them can be there.
Yeah.
Well, I get my best inspirations in the shower.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, when I was thinking about this whole conversation and last, I said, well, I really need to get this article out there because you mentioned that, and that's a very common thing for people and that's one of the reasons why.
Okay. Because
all of that creative flow within you is getting super excited. And so that literally, the inspiration and ideas come through those little droplets and they're being absorbed through the whole process of it.
Sure.
So the ideas and your connection to your spark of your thought forms and creation.
Nice. Makes me want to shower.
Right.
Okay, so this is the first I've heard in regards to where did you say the soul, the higher portions of us is coming through at the base, of our spines? Is this?
Yeah, because that's where your spinal column now, in addition to all the things that it would have done if you were going to a class, a medical class in the 3D version and looking at the spine and all the vertebrae and all the nerves that run up and down it and the lymph nodes and all the mechanisms that it does. I mean, it's always been a main thoroughfare for the regular body, but in the changes now, it's actually the hub of the superhighway for all the new information systems. It's probably a good way to put it.
Okay, so
all of our information systems within ourselves, before we even communicate either way external to ourselves, are all they're expanding, but it's more than expanding because and it's more than getting a total rehab. So it's not really a new build because you're there, but it's kind of a combination of those,
Okay.
Yeah, well, the spine and the fluid that runs in the spine is like an information superhighway, if you will. So that makes total sense to me. Wow, sorry to cut you off, Sheila.
No, that's okay. It's just I was going to say something very similar to that, only I'd seen several things about the colostrum oil, which is, I'm gathering, part of the cerebral spinal fluid situation, and the rising of Kundalini is that as it's rising through I guess that's the idea. And I've seen a couple of different folks that talk about that in regards to what I guess that really was when they spoke in the Bible about anointing with oil, that's part of it, I guess. I'm gathering from what, and I've kind of come back to some of the stuff in the Bible and seeing it with brand new eyes.
Yeah, me too. I went to Sunday school and got kicked out of Sunday school. I asked too many questions that they really had too much of a hard time answering. But just like you, Sheila, the other day I had the thought I was doing something at work and I was in a place where there wasn't anybody else around. So, or in a location. So I quickly, and I had a few minutes with my hands full, but I could listen. So I took out my phone and I did a search for Revelations and audio, and sat there and turned it on, and I'm kind of looking over my shoulder going, oh my God, what was very interesting to me, and I got beyond, I did the St. James version, which apparently is the one that has the most truest, accurate.
Oh.
That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you for that. My mom asked me that question.
Yeah. But what was interesting is, so it's audio and the guy's voice is speaking it, and some of the stuff took me right back to when I was a kid because we went to church. I went to church 6 days a week because we had church before school every morning, and then
sure.
Anyways, so some of that I just I thought no judgment, just listen. What is it? And I was fascinated by the number of words within and phrases within sentences within blocks of, because it's a story. There I forgot who is talking to this guy who goes and but you could, from my ears and feeling now, it's codes, it's keys and codes for what's really happening now. And I'm thinking, yeah, but people think that, that passage or phrase that he just said means this. It really doesn't. It actually means X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Well, we kind of synchronistically stumbled across some Neville Goddard information where he was talking very much about the fact that the Bible is loaded with codes and keys, and that it was never meant to be what it's been used for.
Yeah, right.
And so, me too. I wasn't actually kicked out, but asked to leave. And honest to goodness, ran the Jehovah Witnesses off on their own. Not that I asked them to leave; they left, which is kind of unheard of,
right?
The Mormons too, but believe it or not, the Mormons too went running and never to return. So yeah.
Well, your equal faith in your opportunities for.
That's right. Yeah. Well, see, I finally had to tell them that, my God was bigger than their God, and that was so. But
they ran, you mean?
Yes, they ran. They actually did. The good sisters of the Mormons here locally. Yeah, they did. But yeah, it's like a whole new. It's like, I don't know, and it has made me want to go back and read more, especially the way that Neville Goddard seems to relate. The last that Lisa and I were reading in that was that the birth of the Christ child will happen for us all. And apparently he reported that in his instance, he actually heard a child crying when his Christ consciousness came in. So,
well, that's a beautiful circle back around to where we started this call with early this morning, the uprising energies. And so, and 'tis the season. So if you're getting any dots coming together,
right?
Get the idea where we're doing right this minute.
Yes. And I feel like I can't help it, but now we were both very excited to see that you're going to be doing a call on 1212.
Mm-hmm.
And And so really excited for that. And
I'm doing one a little bit after that too.
are you? Okay, awesome.
A few more hop skips down the calendar there. Not many, but
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Want to be part
Nice.
of all of that. Yeah. It feels like it's going to be really quick here. That's what it's feeling like to me.
yeah, I think, well, everybody is all a little different. It will be really, the visual that comes to mind is it will be very quick for everybody, but the quickening and the quickness and that wave or train or mode that they're on will be directly related to have they been putting the pillow over their head, and have they been doing, the inner work? Have they been integrating and opening the heart and all that kind of stuff?
We are losing your audio for sure now. Almost. You started out and then it started very, very. So,
Can you hear me now?
yes, not very well, but still. It's like your microphone gets temperamental and just goes in and out. I don't know.
I'm using the computer microphone. It's a big microphone right here. And it can't get much bigger than that.
Wow. No, you sure can't. I don't know what it, well, your energy must be waning then.
Okay, well, I'll try to tone my Rudolph nose and everything down.
The minute you did that, it came right on.
You're good.
Yes, you are. Tone that Rudolph nose down, darling.
We like to hear you.
Yes, we would like to make sure we can hear you. Because everybody else wants to hear you too.
Yeah, but what I notice is when that happens, I really have to listen. You get all of me.
Maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's on purpose.
Right?
Everybody in the world is going, what's she saying? Because when BZ talks, everybody listens.
Right? That's a thing.
Don't even think about
It is for me.
I'm having a creator being over here making a different choice than the one he was just considering. Not my creator being, but
I see.
another creator. So did you hear what I said about you said I have a feeling it's going to be fast, or would you say fast or quick or?
Yeah, well, I've been feeling like, I'm just going to go on and say it. I feel like something's going to happen by Christmas. And if not by Christmas, at least by the first of the year. Because it feels like an everyday and almost all the time occurrence now about the feeling dizzy, the expansion. A lot of times I now, it's like I'll start getting a slight uncomfortable tightness in my chest, and I realize that, I don't want to go into any kind of panic, so I talk to my body and so, but it's almost a constant thing, and sometimes excitement starts building, and I don't know, it's just there's a part of me that feels like something's going to be taking place. What it is, I don't know.
Well, it's already taking place.
Yes.
Well, it feels like something's going to pop or.
That too.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's what I was saying before I got too bright, I guess. For some, for some, they can see it coming way off and feel it and are ready and great. For some, they'll like more of what you talked about, a little excited and a little nervous because whoa kind of thing. And for some, a large sum, a great many large sum, they won't understand what it is and why it seems so different, and it's all of a sudden and they can't ignore it anymore. So part of that will be internal, in a physical way, in an emotional way, in a mentalities, mind chatter, loops, kind of way. Some of it will be in their own, the way they walk in the world kind of way. Some of it will be within their own circle, family, whatever that circle is. Some of it will be within work, and some of it will be in their, because it's beyond a reaction. So it will be in how their being interacts with and is in connection with all that's going on. In one way, you might language is it out there, because none of it is out there anymore, and that's a big realization that's going to come right here.
Right.
So it's one of the reasons, and I'll go into it more on Tuesday, but it's one of the reasons that I wanted to do the call, because there's kind of two energy flows almost, that it's important for people to, if they're already feeling it and knowing it, to give voice to it themselves, for others to let them know about what's going on, and to stand. Because now it's a beginning of the time when the real work, it really is here for everybody to do. So it's no coincidence that we had another previous call about missions, and no longer, pushing the mission away, or hiding from that, or not understanding, or whatever the lot that we come up with. So, but yeah, and you're going to see, so from the external sense, and again, that's a really, not only is that a misnomer, but it's wholly inaccurate. But I'm going to use it as a placeholder.
Okay.
It's really inaccurate, but maybe something else will come to me. So from the external, the amount of, let me try this analogy. If you said fast, so if you were on a whitewater rafting trip, and the water was all these amazing different colors, and some of them were very distinct patterns through parts of the water. Some of them were blending in a really muddy kind of, you took a whole bunch of colors and they looked pretty individually, and it was muddy. And then there's pools of no color. So not light, but the absence of color, which is the absence of light, really. And then there are flows where it's just sparkling and spectacular. So that's what we're on right this minute, and we are the river. And so we might label things, events, but again, that's not really accurate. So I'll describe it and this isn't accurate either, but I'll describe it in a more linear way, in that, well, no, I'll do it in a clean way. Not that way. but it's everything's coming. It will seem like everything is coming at once, and even if we feel that we've been fairly clued on to what's coming, what's out there, what's going on behind the scenes, and that kind of stuff, there'll be an awful lot of whoa, wow, aha, okay, kind of things, or whatever, your iteration of those things. And that was a pretty example, but because since it's not out there, it's us. So that river that I described, people may be having the thought, well, okay, yeah, that, the news is going to hit and there's going to be this and that and these revelations and these, I guess some people thinking there's arrests and all this kind of stuff. And so it's fast and, oh yeah, we're getting there, and yeah, and it's great. And, all that's definitely going on, but it's not, what I mean by it's not out there is because we're so completely involved, part of it, it's part of us. I'm not getting the right, I'm not giving it, I don't think I'm making any sense at all, but it's not us and hey, look at that news report, or hear that news thing, or I just watched this happen here and there, because it's not separate from you.
Right.
Because the same thing, so as within, as without, as above, so below, right? The macro, the micro. So all of those kind of phrases, you take them all into one and you put them, so this is all around in you. So you're in, actually, is a better way to phrase it. You're in all of it.
So what, I'm just going to see if I can paraphrase or if I understand what I hear you saying. Yeah.
This is going to be good.
Please tell me.
Because I'm in the dark. So I cannot wait.
Okay, well maybe, yeah. Okay, this is what I'm getting. I'm feeling like as it happens externally, and I'm looking upon it, I will also be realizing at the same time all of that and where it's connected in here. I'm going to, in that moment, begin to realize and to experience my multidimensional self and my me in here and my me out there. Like, I don't know, I'm sensing that it's just going to be this moment of aha that is so large that I almost can't wrap my brain, because sometimes I feel like I get a glimpse of it where I feel as though nothing is external, it's all internal. And the actual changes that are happening are internal. And the reason I'm looking at them out here is because it's a reflection of this inner knowing or change. I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah, no, that was very well said. Spot on compared to what I fumbled through. But you left, the only thing I would say but on that is that, well, okay. Okay. I was going to say you left something out, but my thinking to say that you left something out is a matter of perspective. And at that moment, it was a very linear perspective.
Okay.
So you didn't. What I think is fair to point out here, though, as we're going through the flow of this, is that the realization of all of what you just described, what that entails, is everything. So to simplify greatly, if there is tremendous beauty at that nexus point, it will be, you will just realize what the word beauty is. Okay.
Okay.
If there is fear, you will just realize that for the first time you are having the full magnitude of that vibration which you constructed. So no one's doing this to anybody.
To you, right.
We're it. We're the whole thing.
Okay.
So, and that has a lot in part to do with the integration that you have been doing and the
Sure.
opening of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So another simple way to do it is to describe it is that the more gentle, more, if you're thinking of energy uprising or information flowing or awakening, kind of think of all those different metaphors, but they're all now channels in the river because they're all important, and you can think of lots of different ways. And some of the examples, you can come up with many of your own examples along some of those paths that I just talked about. So they're all in the river. Mm-hmm. And for many of us, the three of us and others, had places over the last, maybe for some it's been the last 6 months or a year or a couple of years or 20 years or 30 years or so on and so forth, amount of time. So it's been, the flow has been coming, and there have been, big things and little things and well-yeehaw things and ho things, kind of a thing. But it's been, like this. And sometimes it's been thinking, okay, this is really intense and get me off of this ride and whatever. But it really has been a flow, and fairly, even in the acute stages, fairly gentle.
Oh, yeah.
And what I'm saying is the river's not gentle anymore.
No.
Because things have, remember, I think I was in the description for the call for 1212 is that grace period of that is over. It's closed.
Yeah. I can't stop thinking about that. So my question then is, what can I do ahead of it to prepare myself?
Open your heart.
Yeah.
Be your love. Be love.
Yeah.
You watched some of it the other day.
I what?
You watched some of it the other day when you were on the call, when I said to Sheila, your love, be love.
Yeah.
And it was, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, a lot of that too. But that's what's going on. So it's, I was going to say it's nothing to be afraid of. And in the big, expansive picture, it's not.
No, it's wonderful.
It's sitting right in a particular shirt where it's like, yeah, they're going to argue with you like that because that's true. But again, nobody is missing anything. So we're not laughing.
It doesn't. Anything. Okay, so let's go back to that other call where, little Sheila was kind of freaking out a little bit, because as I mean, had I not had that experience, and the two of you really were instrumental in helping me see what those tears really were about, that would have been a little difficult for me, I think. And so, as this grace period has now ended, I guess I'm sort of thinking about, as there are folks that have been pulling the pillow over their head, so to speak, the blankets over their head. And so since that grace period has now ended, and I don't know, I guess I'm kind of wondering what that's all going to look like as the other fractals of me that have been pulling the covers over their head and saying, no, I don't want this. I don't know what this is. I don't want this. And I don't want to look at all of these things and running. I mean, I have seen things out there that are actually coming out and saying that the human body won't be able to take it. And so if that's the choice they're making, that in mass, this may not look pretty on the outside. So, you know, I mean, as folks that may be contacted, because I've already gotten a few folks, you know, contacting me, you know, what kind of advice do we give? I mean, you know, been going around for years saying this, that, or the other thing about different things. And, you know, nobody wants to hear those things when it was still an easy flowing, maybe easier time. And now it's, oh, geez, I'm sorry. I just now got this wailing and gnashing of teeth, for crap's sake. Boy, that brings a whole new meaning to that little phrase.
Yeah, it feels like all the parts of us are going to come back to us in an instant, maybe. Is that, I just got a flash of that, BZ. Is that what's going to be hard to take?
Well, again, let me parse it out just a little bit. So,
okay.
Because on a lot of levels, what we're having right here is a really, really, really big conversation.
Yes, I'm aware. And I don't know. I'm appreciative that you're willing to have this conversation.
Yes, me too.
Because I realize that we are all fractals of the one, the source of everything, all that is. But we are also in separate human vessels. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it is those vessels in which I'm thinking at this point, because I'm open and I'm ready and I am unafraid. However, there's lots of folks out here that don't seem to.
Not so much.
Not so much. Not so much. Not open, not unafraid, and not willing is pretty much running as hard as they can run in the other direction. I know, because I was doing it too. And so I'm thinking with the grace period being over, because it feels to me like there's going to be a smack. I mean, the 2x4 has now arrived. Okay. Remember, we were saying the other day, it's a whisper, then a tap, then a slap, and then a 2x4. And it feels to me like the 2x4 is right about here, ready to smack. Right. Right.
That's the TNT handle.
And so I don't know. I'm thinking, you know, and I know none of us probably really even have a clue as to what that's going to look like, but.
Well, again, it will be different. How many billions of souls on this planet?
Right.
And, you know, then all the other planets. So it will be different. There will be some threads, some similarities, some kind of channels of flow. Two things which are kind of comments on what you've both just been saying, but on the outskirts, so we'll just start there because they both come back around twice. So one is, I've always had the thought to myself and then shared it in various different ways with a whole bunch of others, you know, is that what I have a knowing of and a direct experience of and a behind the scenes look of and a sensing of and then experiencing other people's information. And so all those different things. And I have known, and I just have a clearer knowing of it now, but for at least 20 some odd years that, and it's, kept increasing. But what I know, the totality of what I know and have a knowing of is just a few shavings on the tip of the iceberg of what's really there. And I know that. So sometimes and this is one of these times where I step back into that and I think from the perspective of a lot of people who've been pulling the wool over their eyes and the pillow over their head, I think, wow, that puts it in, in a real nutshell there of how big that is. The other thing that's, again, both that comment and this next one are kind of on the periphery of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Is that now is also the time for the real work, I call it play because that's what I have a knowing that it is, but for a lot of people it's work, the real work for everybody to stand up and be and do is right now. And it's, going to get more and more and more and more. So where individual, to some extent, where individual wants, and these are from more of a linear mentalities, ego mind kind of construct don't matter. Because we're so much bigger than that. We're so much more expansive, all-inclusive. We're love, in a body. And what really is love, the vibrational signature frequency bandwidth, which is love, which is makes what human love, or kind of our construct of love in its various forms, not only so pale that it's hard to even recognize that the two are actually anywhere near related in any way, shape, or form. So having said that, that's where, the time, again, I think the words that came to me were knowing, trust, and compassion. That's where we're in right this moment. And it's, getting bigger and bigger. And there's no mistake that you're feeling things are ramping up. There's no mistake that you're feeling, whoa, the energies really were flying in today, because you're at the beginning of that portal. The 1212 portal is always, portals are not smack on that little dot there.
Right.
So what you're, and different people will feel even a little bit further than that, pre to that, and some closer, but that's where we are, and it's not going to go away. It's not going to change. Well, it is going to change.
It's going to get even more intense, isn't it, BZ?
Yeah.
That's what I have a sense of as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was, asking that, because like I said, it's
but in fairness, I'm going to stop you there just for 1 second. In fairness, yes to that question. But as you go there, you're not looking back. So you would not then describe it that, I know you wouldn't either. You would not describe it that way. Does that make sense?
yes.
So if you're standing here and you think back for a moment of what it was yesterday compared to today, it's, it's getting more intense. But you're so completely enmeshed in, engulfed in, enfolded in, focused in what's going on that you won't have any time to look back to compare it to. Wow, it's really getting ill, because it just is.
Right. No, I kind of feel like that anyway. And I mean about everything. It's like, I don't have time for looking back on much of anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Because also the looking back, excuse me, we don't do that. Thank you. The part of the trap of the looking back is the egomon. It's the mentalities. It's that spinning, churning, this, that, and the other thing. You're now, because you're stuck in a linear groove, because there is no back, because you have a moment and you're in that moment. When you're fully in that moment, you really don't want anything else, because this is the moment.
Right.
And you flow to the next moment, and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
Yeah, some of this with using my linear brain is it takes me a little bit to really integrate it sometimes, because that's just the way I've always thought, I guess. So, I mean, I get the concept, I do. Sometimes it just takes me a bit to sit with it and sit in it.
Yeah.
When I'm connecting with you on this, am I bringing across?
Oh yes, no, yes.
Or is that popping up?
No, sometimes I think I've recognized that it's just my brain fighting for a limitation of some sort. Because remember, for me, in my linear past, I've always had a good memory. Well, except for the time I was sick and on a lot of drugs. I still pride myself on my good memory. And this week there was this meme going around on the internet about how, oh, you're losing your memory because you're a creator being and you're not gonna, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not losing my memory. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm not a creator being, or I'm not going where everybody else is? So there's a little bit of that too, I admit, I've always been really good at remembering things, learning things, that sort of thing. And so I don't know if that's, again, my brain fighting for its limitations, and so I have to sit with it for a while. Because I don't want to lose any of that necessarily. And so as a creator being and a portion of all that is, and it's already there. So see, in my mind, when I first saw that meme, I was like, wait a minute, that's not making any sense. If you're all that is, you're going to know everything anyway, so the memory is not going anywhere. I don't get that. See, it didn't seem like I was fighting for a limitation. I was calling BS really on the meme itself, because as all that is, I already know it. So it's not like I would lose the memory. So it didn't make it.
Well, you're right. Yes and no.
Oh, okay. That made that so much easier.
It's a quantum thing. So
it's a quantum thing. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not linear, because it's so from one perspective, a lot of people lose their memory, or they, like, if they did something, they can't remember it just recently, or part of that is because it's a time thing, because their acute awareness and tick, 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 tick on the time schedule is disappearing. So the way they used to hang different things, peg them in different ways, is not the same. And so you won't remember different things, but you know everything and have access to all of that. And that, from another perspective, it is absolutely so. You don't go through a portion where that doesn't happen. You just may not have access to it at the moment. And the reason that is completely determined by each individual creator being. Does that make sense? No.
Yes and no. Okay, my turn to say that because, okay, so maybe from my perspective, as this portion of the all that is, if I have access to it, and I know I have access to it, again, from my perspective, then I should always have access to it. And I mean, I know I can't, in this moment of now, for whatever reason, I've veiled myself, so I don't have access to everything,
Right.
all knowing right now.
Right.
I feel it's coming.
I think the simplest way just to wrap up that one piece is it's a correct languaging of things that do happen, and it happens for different people at different times and to different extents, and they have different reactions to it. One of the reasons that it happens is because you're losing your mind, which is a really good thing. Yay! You know, right? I lost my mind a long time ago.
Well, that's good news. It's actually good news because, you know, a lot of folks think that I lost my mind long ago. So
there you go. Yeah. So you're losing what we think of in the linear, you know, so proud of that mind and that logical mind, or the processing mind that could spell, it could do this, could do all these kinds of things that, and you're losing it. You're losing your mind to be replaced by something that is so far superior than what we thought of and had accolades for that mind. Because now your mind, your cognitive channels and capacities are not running the show. They are in service to the real electromagnetic powerhouse in your body, which is your heart. It creates far more energy and can compute far more things than your mind, brain ever could.
okay,
So when you lose your mind, and then the new part comes online, comes in sync with your heart mind and all of you, then in moments there are temporary things where you forget things, or you don't remember things, or they don't exist. Just like, because you're going much more into quantum, you're realizing too that something that happened before as a memory in your past childhood or something, just as an example, it's not there anymore, or it's changed.
I've been experiencing that.
Right.
And it's been a good thing.
Yes, because they're different time zones and they're collapsing down, and who's steering the boat? So,
and I notice if I identify with the small me, then I'm limited. So I try to identify with the big me and let the other stuff go.
right.
And it feels terrifying if you're identifying with the thing that's going,
Right.
that can feel scary because
Right.
you're going.
Right.
So I try to keep my I am presence. I am the observer of all of this that I'm doing.
Right.
well, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're the observer and the experiencer, however, correct?
Yeah, you're three. So I remember, let's see, it was back in 2005. Yeah. And I'd gotten divorced, and after 25 years, and was moved to another place because that's where I was told I needed to go next. And all of a sudden, I mean, it was really all of a sudden, I would be like here, I don't, it just is now, so I don't pay that much attention to it. I have to kind of tease it out if I think about it, parse things out. But I would be having a conversation, watching myself having observing myself having a conversation, and be the entire conversation all at the same time. So
it was happening to me in the courtroom.
Yeah. So I'd be having this conversation, and part of me would go, and the part of me having the conversation, just the regular little me, right? Could see, I'm thinking, going, okay, now this is just really freaky. While we're still having the conversation, trying not to, if I looked like I had, 20 dots and 5 tails and rainbows and broomsticks around me, maybe no one would notice. But yeah, so that's part of it, because again, that's the totality of who you are and your capability, because you're everything. So it would then make sense, wouldn't it, if you were in the conversation, you're observing the conversation, and you are the totality of the conversation. By that I mean where the conversation is taking place, all the surroundings.
I get glimpses of that. Fleeting glimpses.
That's interesting to me.
How do you dance with those glimpses, Lisa?
I get really excited, and I almost pop myself out of it, I think, because I begin to want to analyze it or describe it. Like I'll leave it and go right into my mind and try to pick up.
See, that's why losing your mind is really helpful.
Yes, it is. It helps me to stay in the moment too. The losing my mind. It seems to be happening for me more and more. And I think I've said this out loud many times. I think I have Alzheimer's. I think I'm really losing it, because I do feel like I lose track of sort of the minutia of the physical stuff. I don't know where I am exactly. I can't describe what's happening, but I feel like I'm losing touch with some of the stuff that's transpiring here. I don't even know.
Yeah, see, I've got a lot of questions about that. Because seriously,
still back on the wait a minute.
No, yeah, honestly, it is, because okay, so
I knew that one would be a corker.
Well, yes, because now my mind works really, really fast, and I don't know the difference. I can feel when my heart expands. I have the tightness in my chest. And we all saw me the other day with the tears, and you helped me understand what that was. All right, and I get that. And I'm open to losing my mind. It's just that it hasn't happened yet.
But I really like it. I don't want to.
No, it's not that even. I'm wondering what that's going to look like for someone. Okay. For someone like me, who has a very analytical brain, apparently, is what I've always been told. A good head for knowing things, memorizing numbers, remembering okay, I'll give you an example. Lisa had one of her stones on her laptop tray, and we were moving things around, and I happened to pick up her laptop tray with the stone on it and move it into her room. And all of a sudden she was looking for that stone and she didn't know where it was. Well, I knew where it was. These are things that happen to me all the time. I used to kid me. Before Google, I was Google. I'm serious. I've had people call and say, hey, do you remember, or hey, do you know, and things like that, right? Okay. So yeah, that's something I prided myself on, but it's still here, okay? Now I'm working on the internal stuff, facing my shadows and all like that, but that's not going away. If anything for me, it's getting better. So what does that say for me?
Just wait.
Just wait. Oh, I see. And so since I'm open to losing that, what does that look like then? Is it, oh no, because honestly, I still have an issue there. If I am part of all that is, and I do feel that I'm a creator being, I don't think I'm going to create less of knowledge for myself.
But it's not. See, that's what it is not. It's more of. So you just described, it's very interesting. You just described a lot of, the thinking capacities. So funny enough, I could describe myself from prior before to that. Like an elephant, an elephant never forgets the memories, because it was pictorial in a way but that's gotten better. So it would go away where I lost my memories or can't remember. And it's different than losing the memories per se, is you can't remember something that just happened 5 minutes ago because you're in the moment and that's not the moment anymore. So you just let it go. But incredibly right-brained and incredibly left-brained from ever since I was tiny. Very creative, very logistics, very linear, incredible organization skills, incredible pie in the sky, floaty kind of skill, at the same time. And they spend a lot of their time, for years like this. So when I lost my mind, it was the best thing ever because this stopped happening. And all of the things that the left brain and all the things that the right brain had, right? And capabilities, which were very finely tuned and really brilliant in lots of ways, right? Got even better, but not from a linear perspective of brilliance. There was a coherence between them.
Okay, so what does that look like for you? Because you just described me. I'm very creative in one way, and I'm very organization. I could, if somebody needed to know where something is in the cabinet in here, I could tell you which door to go in, which shelf it's on, over to the left, over to the right, because I arranged it so I know where it is. I learn things very quickly and all of that. So you just described me very much the way I have been. Now, when I was ill and I was on all those drugs, I couldn't tell you Jackson. If you told me anything, 5 minutes later, I didn't remember it. And if I didn't write it down, you could forget me knowing anything. So yeah, that did happen to me, but there was no creativity either. I was a zombie and that had a lot to do with medication and the illness and everything else. But if anything, I feel like in the last, 3.5 to 4 years since my health started getting better, if anything, I've been more creative and more of all of those things. Now, I had an experience yesterday where I had all this inspiration and all this creativity, and I sat down and I started trying to do something, and the inspiration just left and the creativity just left. And I kind of got a little deflated over that. And then today, another inspiration hit, and I'm going to try it again tomorrow and see if I can work it out. So I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm a little confused.
You've already lost your mind.
I'd say what?
You've already lost your mind. You just told me. You just illustrated the story of where you lost it and what the process was like. And you have an excuse out there that comes in a pill bottle, but.
Oh, so you're saying that when I went through that was the losing of my mind. So it's already online. The creator portion of me is already online, and I just haven't accepted that or realized that. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I'm not sure those two words are correct, but that's the right flow and things. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
There's no coincidence that you had those health issues. And, the stock operation in those health issues is to give you a whole lot of drugs that makes you not be able to do things. And it's not so much to heal you of your thing, it's to actually mask what you were really doing, which was losing your mind.
Oh, really? Now I find that terribly interesting. Because
why do you think the pharmaceutical industry is so big and so tightly controlled? And why do you think they're trying to mandate shots and this and that and the other thing all over the place? There's no coincidence in that, because they need to, well, that ship has sailed, but their thought was to mask all that and inject everything. If people have flu shots and all these kinds of things, there are all sorts of, I won't even go into that, but there's all sorts of elements, levels, and layers to those things.
Yeah.
Flu shot's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
For the major designation and the major design, the whole idea is to mask, squash, and do whatever is possible to limit your capabilities that have been coming online for everybody's for a long time. Now, as what this conversation started, is that up energy, you could be on every pharmaceutical that has been invented or will be invented, and it won't matter because the ship's sailed.
I gotcha.
That's it.
So the suppression is not even possible at this moment.
No.
At this juncture, we cannot stop it if we try.
That's correct.
I see.
And when you try now to stop it, if an individual does, that, I've referred to oftentimes that experience when a plane is coming in, there's, chatter. So that's the difference in someone who is very good with aerodynamics could give you the whole reason for it, but chatter is that kind of that turbulence in the air, and it's not bouncing, it's just chatter. So you'll experience a lot of times if you go from one frequency to another, either up or down, that bandwidth, if you've been asleep and think you're dreaming, and you come back and it's kind of like this chatter is coming. You're coming back into your limited body and your limited frequency again. So that's why that is. But anyways, right now, people who have been experiencing that chatter or who have been putting the pillow over their head, they're going to have all sorts of chatter now because we're on Gaia, okay, that beautiful blue planet who's a being, living being. And she's moved into a totally different place in space. If you ask someone who teaches a class where we are in the space, no.
They don't know.
Yeah. So all of those things are such that the shearing force on the physical body of the changes, especially if you're not listening to your soul and your own inner promptings and your own knowings, and you're squashing it, that shearing force is enormous. I mean, it always has been great, but it's same you described that rise in energies, that's part of it as well. So the other day you were both, I think, talking about the phasing in and out and different things like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be more, all those kinds of things are more and more, except it or think, right? You don't know it completely. You may think, okay, well, this is weird, but I can ask somebody or see what something is, and or hey, here's a light bulb. I could ask the expert. I'm not pointing to me for me as the expert. I'm pointing to me as you, Sheila's saying this, or Lisa's saying this. That's correct. So that's the only expert is right, within inside of you. So, but an awful lot of people have not been doing it. Now, some of them, that shearing force is excellent because it will literally shear off pieces. So the pillow will go at Mach 5 into the wind. The blanket, is
Gone.
It internally combusted, and that's that, and they're like, wow, okay, hey. And a lot can, kind of shake their head and,
Reacclimate.
this, and then notice something, or they might not describe this, or tune in or something, and they can feel it, at least in one direction. And then the dots are popping like popcorn all over the place, and and then once enough of them build this bridge, and it's like, oh, okay, click, 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 click. And then it's like they had, new eyes to see everything. And some will be running down the road after the pillow that went around in Mach 5 to try to get it back over their head. And when that occurs, that's where you're starting to get into the picture that Sheila painted, not being a pretty sight around, because we're on the planet and she's gone. She's gone, and we need to catch up. And so this window that we're in now, and it's a window, where that's one of the reasons it's called the harvest. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a harvest. I mean, some people can look at the harvest, it's the elite will refer to things as the harvest time as well. And that from their perspective, it is. It's the same time. They're just, the perspectives that are held are differently, and how their concept of how they're connected to source and are all is different perspective. But they've shifted something just a little bit so that it makes perfect sense, as in alignment. You can see that. It just isn't all encompassing. It's just starts from the service to self-encompassing part.
Right.
But anyways, as this happens, that's where the compassion. So the knowing and the trust within each person is vital. And standing firmly, stepping up and standing firmly in that. The compassion for oneself is vital. And then that knowing and trust and compassion for all others that you come in to contact with. And the other thing that's really important is that when you get those nudges, or you have that creative inspiration, or whatever that you label it, language it as, to jump on it instantly in a soft handed way. What I mean by don't grab on, I'm going to jump on this end. I got the rope of creativity and I'm going to hold it, right? Because, well, you get rope burns, but also that's how you make it disappear.
Well, I think that must have been what happened yesterday, because I was feeling really good about what I was thinking about doing, and pulled everything out and started, and then nothing.
Yeah.
It just left altogether.
So if you play, like with anything else, if you're playing with it, so it comes on and you go, oh, cool, and you grab, and this kind of ties in all these different things, because, your mind's going, and and your inspiration may be going, so just grab and do a doodle or a note or a word or a phrase, however, you'll start to come up with whatever's a good technique for you. If I'm someplace and I don't have anything, and if I'm at work, since I have to, that's part of my work, is I have to have my phone attached to me, I'll take the phone out and there's a notepad app in there, and I'll just little note or send myself an email or something, and just forget about it and go back. And what's interesting is that they will come through in different ways, and the creative flow, that inspiration, where if at that moment, if I could have done something, I did my version of that something, because I happened to have to be at work, right? So I did my version of playing with it. Okay, so I thought it, and I may have, in that moment, what if it was a word or a phrase or an action or whatever was the spark, right? I wrote that down, and then some thoughts played to me. It could be sounds, and maybe there's toning that I heard, describe as best I can what that sound. Or I have the memo record thing. I could just, if there's a lot of tones that come through with it, I'll just, because it's audio now, I can mimic that. Anyway, send it to myself. And what's fascinating is when later I come back and I get these different things, sometimes I get exactly, and I'm right back in that window, that flow again. And sometimes, like Sheila, it's like, I look at it and go, what the heck does that mean? But because I have different things, if I look at either the next line in that particular note or whatever, or the audio, I go, oh, and it's like this symphony all of a sudden comes in because it was the placeholder for that flow that came in. And now that I'm there, the time is even that this now moment has up jumped with everything else. And so now, does that make sense? So now the flow is really there.
It expanded.
Right. But I can bypass the frustration moment of that inspiration going, or it left me flat, or if my brain was still at the stage where it goes, well, I'm not creative, or, yada, yada, yada. Believe me, I just got so tired. That happened all the time. So it doesn't happen anymore. But so I can short circuit. I can skip all of that stuff. And because this is a technique that I've done, so I don't have to say, well, I work, you don't understand, I work all day. Well, yeah, I work all day. But sometimes I work all night too. But I have different mechanisms because I'm 100% committed to this.
Yes.
My missions that I came through on, and from my own personal soul embodiment and soul evolution and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, I give 100% to everything else that I do, but absolutely this is my focus, and I do whatever it takes to make that so, no matter what the day brings, or the physical body brings when the energy goes like this, or whatever it is. But that's my commitment.
So do you think that there will come a time very shortly here where things will really start to become clear for folks like me? I feel like my mission was partly this channel, but I don't really know that. You know what I mean? There's
okay, wait a minute. So you've reneged on the expansion that you did?
No. No, it's not that.
Are you sure?
No, honestly, I feel good, gravy. No, I feel okay. No, I do feel that that's what I'm supposed to do, but half the time I don't know if I'm doing enough. If
that's your brain talking.
See what?
Yeah, that's your brain talking. Tell your brain to go sit down for a minute.
Okay.
Have you watched the video?
That video? No.
Okay.
Not all the way through.
Well, I can guarantee you I think there's 3 specific moments in that video that if you actually watched, felt, tuned into the toning that happened in that, you wouldn't even be wasting time asking that question.
Okay.
So that's a groove. That's a vibrational groove that you're in. That's a timeline groove that you just gave voice to and an illustration of.
And so what would your advice be to me to get myself out of that groove?
Well, I don't give any advice ever, but just, I don't hold it that way, and I don't. What's the payoff to you for being in that groove?
I don't know that there is one.
But you're in it. You jump back.
Again, I'm having trouble hearing you now.
You jump back to it. So you're in it again. You're playing in it again.
Well, no, I do still feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I just do. Because I want to do it. I just want to do it.
Right.
A lot and all the time. With anyone who wants to do it with me, I will be happy to do it. That didn't sound right. Shut up, you.
Sorry.
Come on.
Okay, all right. I just heard how that sounded. Okay. Okay. Well, see, because it's not like I got a real clear indication of what my mission is. I hear others talk about knowing what they've been sent here to do and then going for it.
Thinking it to death.
I'm sorry, say again?
You're thinking it to death.
Well, see, I have a tendency to do that.
Yes.
Your mission will never come in a sense where your linear, logical, segmented, analytical, and those are the polite phrases, mind has like a ticker tape spitting out of your mouth that says, this just in, Sheila Corona's mission, right? It's not going to happen that way.
You don't know how funny that is because I use that this just in all the damn time. When I get knowings or thoughts that I will turn to Lisa and say, well, this just in.
Did it. Here comes all of the breath.
Right out of my head. No. Okay, all right.
But the quality, the feeling of those they're actually coming from your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
When you say this just in, this just flowed in, this, right?
Right. Yes.
That's my
yeah, because it's not like a voice in the head or anything.
Well,
sometimes it is, but not.
So here's my advice: trust.
I really have been trusting the stuff I get, and I've been just giving it out.
Yeah.
If I get something, I just don't. I, Lisa.
Yes.
And it does seem like the more I trust it, the more comes in.
Because it's subtle. It's a soft little voice. If there's two voices and one is louder than the other, 99% of the time, unless you're tuned in and you're listening as a rule, and you have that now the less predominant thing is to not listen, then you're going to get a louder voice, and it's because it's like, wake up! What are you doing? But most of the time, it's your soul is a soft voice. Because
I noticed. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add to that because I agree with you. It's very soft. It's very subtle. And it's not the voice that wants to argue with it.
That's good.
Because I always will have that secondary thing that says, now, wait a minute.
Right.
You didn't think about this.
At the same time, they're not arguing, but at the same time, it will test you.
Okay.
And it will see if you can be trusted.
Okay.
Two-way street. Why do you think that phrase, can you be trusted? And you need to prove yourself.
Thank you for saying that because that is what I haven't I, Sheila. I have been wrestling with that.
Yes, I think we had a conversation where I said, oh, that's a test. I don't like to be tested. No.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's why I think I named that last one testing, showing, knowing. So that was your words, by the way, BZ.
Yeah, I think that's what's coming back around with you vis-a-vis part of your mission, Sheila, is a test. You had this amazing experience and you had the gift, really, of letting yourself arrange yourself to be in front of a camera when you did it.
Yeah.
And it unfolded the way it did, because that wasn't in any way, shape, or form on anybody's thought or mind of how to have that, except that's,
So this is my ego mind trying to say, oh, yeah, you just want to be on camera, so you just think that's your mission. And yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So shut the hell up.
Your ego mind squared.
Yeah, lose your mind already.
Yeah.
For good this time.
Yeah.
Never to be found again.
And
yes, I'm trying to
have the compassion for the ego mind there because right now it's terrified.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Can you just feel that? I can.
Mm-hmm.
It's fighting for its life, for its very existence.
But,
and it doesn't need to.
But we're not, I was going to say, aren't we just going to integrate it? I mean, there's really nothing for it to fear. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, but it doesn't see it that way.
No, but I think it fears giving up control because it's running the show.
And it's got to get over because that ship sailed. But the dance that ensues, the flow and the play and the exchange and the partnership and the dance is so much better. And so again, in a simplistic way to phrase it, that's the difference between the masculine energetic vibration and the divine masculine.
Ah, that's interesting.
I can feel that.
Yeah, I can too. But I hadn't thought about it in quite that.
No.
Exactly in that manner.
Sure.
So I'm feeling like I would classify the ego mind as the masculine, not the divine masculine.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
It's the patriarchal control. Have you looked outside there?
Yeah. Try not to, but sometimes can't help.
So all the patriarchal crumbling, and it doesn't matter if it's a female who's at the podium,
right,
who was running for some office in the land in a high up position.
Right.
That's doing it, right? It's that masculine.
Yes, it is.
Ego
Right.
mind. So all of that is beyond crumbling. It's turning into rubble, and there's plumes of dust and.
Because it didn't serve us anyway. That's why it's leaving.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that's the good news.
Right.
Absolutely. And the divine masculine is, fully coming online now. And, that has a different
feel,
different color, different vibrational frequency, even though it is all the same than the divine feminine.
What color is it?
Well, that depends, on where you are and what you're playing with it. But for me, when I see it more as a braid of colors where, because I don't tease about the divine feminine and the divine masculine is the silver and the gold. But they, to me, I don't know whether it's the way that I read it, but it has that effervescence. It has since it encompasses all, it has all of the other colors in the spectrum there, but that would be for just that focus, those would be the main colors. So you can see blues in there, you can see other colors, but they have the hue of that gold or that silver to it. Kind of like if you're...
Like my hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got the gold on the bottom, the color I'm growing out, and the silver. The warm and the cool.
Yeah. And if you think about if you see sunlight coming through, it's a very misty morning. And there's sunlight coming in, there might be dewdrops on the thing. So depending on what other colors are nearby, since the sun is a kind of a golden hue, that's going to be your predominant color. But you'll have the mists and you'll have the drops of dew when you're looking at a specific thing that will pick up the other colors of things. So the predominant color is either the gold from the sunlight or the reflection of light, which is more the silver hue, but it's picking up the other. It might be picking up greens, or if there's water, it might be picking up the blues. So that's kind of the when I
love that.
When I see it in a pictorial metaphor, and that's kind of the way that it comes through.
The other day I was laying in bed and I asked, who am I? I wanted to see who I am. Like, I'd like to know before the great reveal so that I don't run screaming. Anyway, what I saw was a dot of light at first because I had my eyes closed. And then it turned gold and it began to swirl like this in And then just as that was like getting, and as it got further from the center, it got a little wider, that band of color of gold, and it was swirling. And then silver began. And then the silver swirled right along. And then the two just did this beautiful dance and it just got bigger and bigger until it was taking up my whole field of vision. Wow.
That's who you are.
Yeah, that's who I am. That's me. I love it.
And in that, you can give language to love and light, or light love. That's another way to hold that, because their codings light love and love light are different energy frequencies from each other. So in that combination, so love light and light love. So
All right.
One of the reasons, let's just make me go back to this for a minute. One of the reasons losing our mind is so important, because when we have our mind in that metaphor that we're talking about, to lose, is because it really is a box or inner. So it is constructing and framing up the wall. Yeah, and framing up the walls for
A
the
limit.
constraints. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to see, sense, know, trust, feel, hear, tone. There's lots of different things which are all accurate, and I left, a whole bunch of out. It's hard to get those when you've got a constraint thing.
Yeah.
So another metaphor that comes, if you've ever taken a photograph and you're creating something, you say hit the constrain proportions button. So if you make it smaller on any, this way or this way, right? But sometimes you don't want that, because you're looking to reshape it just a little, because maybe there's something that you caught at the edge of the picture that you want to see, and you want to shift how that is. But you don't see it until someone may showing you, oh, well, just take that off, unclick that button. And then you can, so instead of this like this, you can kind of go like this. So it's changed from, it's hard with my fingers, but it's changed from like this, and you shifted a little, you can actually bring it down just a little, and it lets this piece that was over here that was out of this range, because you took the constraints off.
Right.
The information and the visual field always had it. But that constraint lock, which was
keeping it out, just out of your awareness or focal.
Right.
In other words, the data's always been there. It just wasn't framed properly. And the mind tends to keep it framed in a specific,
that's right,
linearly,
that's
or
correct,
any other type of thing.
Yeah.
The constraints are very intentional, and the programming locks in those constraints. So the programming is that constraint button lock.
Okay.
So, and each one is slightly different for all of us, but yeah.
But we'll have, as long as we're open to it, because as you've said, that ship has sailed, the programming will drop away.
Yes, but the in order for the programming to drop away and not the rest of you, then you need to steer that ship. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yes. So on the one hand, the perspective of yes, the program, it will drop away, and more to the point, it will rip away
Or burn right off.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of like entry into the atmosphere, how it just, and all this stuff will just be.
Right. But your shielding, since we're in a spaceship or a rocket metaphor for NASA, the shielding capacity that one has will be much greater when that rocket retro burn goes in and the high flames. If you're actively engaged in the process, if you're not, that shielding process will not work so great.
And that's where we're back to the how messy it's going to look out there.
Yeah.
I've had this visual a couple times now, and so I'm going to say it here. When I tuned in with myself, I got that, and this was some years ago, so I've had some time to noodle on this for myself. But I got that planet Earth was going supernova, and that I could go along for the ride. Well, I just couldn't imagine how that could work. And I'm now seeing it. Well, I've seen it for a while. Because I was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so I've got that Bible piece too. And I kept seeing the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego story, and how I wrapped my brain around how they survived. They survived because they became the flame.
Yes.
So they were not consumed by it.
Yes.
They matched the frequency. They became flame. Yeah. And that's how they survived.
Yes.
So that has been my goal, is to become supernova. And if I'm supernova and the planet's supernova, I'm golden. Okay, and silver.
There you go. That's right.
Not leaving anything out to support it.
That's beautifully the way you said that. That's absolutely a great description of what will happen. And you'll not only become the flame, but you'll become a lot of those other things. You know, the rock that's falling on your head or whatever it is. You know?
So I know that this is the brain trying to frame it in, but I am still, I'm trying to wrap my mind around steering the ship.
Okay, stop. Can I stop you for a second?
Please do.
Okay, so wrap your heart around it. And come up with a question from there.
I can't. I don't think I
Are you tuned into your heart right now?
I don't think I am. I must not be. I must not be.
Well, what can you put your hand on your heart and that'll help.
Let me get my necklace out of the way.
So what's the knowing, or what's the question, or what's the, now you can do what's the thought that comes from there, because it's the heart brain that's going.
I got nothing. So apparently it's just the brain trying to figure something out, I guess, because there's nothing coming up.
And what's the feeling of the quality of that nothing? Nothing as in stillness? Nothing as in...
Yeah, it's just stillness.
Ah, so what's the quality of the stillness?
Well, right this second now, my chest feels tight again. A little painful.
Because you're up jumping again. One of Randy's very favorite quotes is, "Be still and know." So your ego mind was going, I got nothing. Squat, butt kiss.
Well, because the question is
the quality of that, and you said it's still. It's still.
What I'm saying is my logical brain is asking the question, how does one be sure that they're in the proper frequency to go along with the supernova? Because that's what I want. Then when I get quiet and I tune in and all I have is stillness and nothing comes. See, this is what I'm having issues with. I have issues between the head and the heart. Obviously, this has happened a lot to me, right? I feel as though I'm in the right spot. I'm doing everything that I think I should do. I tune in, I get stillness and quiet, and like I said, a little tight, little it's not, pain isn't even the right word. Uncomfortable, I guess, because it's just a little tightness.
Yeah, because the workmen are kind of pushing the walls out.
Right, that's what it feels like, okay? And that is what it feels like, yes. But in terms of what I'm asking up here, I get nothing here, so.
Well, no, okay, that's not a fair characterization from my sensing, knowing, trusting, and toning of what I had you give to me. So I'm going to paraphrase here.
Okay.
You said, I ask, my brain has this question about how do I get, because we're using the metaphor of getting on the supernova, and what do I need to do right? And, your brain is churning and it's on this thing. And I asked, what does your heart say? And you said, I get nothing, because you're still in the head. Right?
I said stillness.
Or with a New York accent, you got nothing. Being a New Yorker, I can say that. So, and then I asked you, what's the feeling of that? And you said stillness. So nothing and stillness are completely different things.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you're not looking at, yeah, I got it. Just let me get it out. I can only speak, even for me, I can only speak so bad. And if your brain, ego mind is going, I have nothing, which means they left me. I'm not hearing anything, right? Or you have no thing. You're in that space of no-thingness, which is the field of all possibility, which is the field of you can write the script how to do it. Because what? Because you're what? Because you're a what? 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 What are you? Come on now.
I am a fractal of all that is.
Okay.
And I know that. So it's just the ego mind fighting again for information that it feels that it's not getting. Is that?
Remember, Sheila, the other day when I was doing this, and I said, my mind told me I need to be doing something. I need to be very busy, and I need to toil and be very busy. And what did my heart say?
Relax.
Enjoy yourself. Have some fun.
Yes.
And I thought that was the dumbest thing I have ever heard.
Yes.
And you laughed at me.
So it looks like you're getting me back for that right now.
Well.
Okay.
And do you know why that's actually particularly funny?
Why?
Because the truth of who you are as a creator being, you can create worlds, right? And one of the pathways to line up all your ingredients and whistle up all of the builders and, frequency movers and the right terrascaping and all that kind of stuff is to be in that place of enjoying and relaxing and that creation, because that's where the spark and the flow and the flood of all of that capacity and ability and creation force jumps from. And then you bet your ass you're going to work hard doing it. You bet. But the working hard has a different quality to it. It's not a hamster on a wheel. I got to be busy. I got to, because I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not valuable. I got to show. If I'm running and I'm sweating and I'm exhausted, somebody will maybe believe that I'm really, yeah.
Lisa,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an example, BZ, of what my issue is apparently. 2.5 years ago now, or no, a year and a half ago, out on this front porch, when we had the gathering here, the campfire gathering, we were all talking and saying, we are creators in training. Did we not? I know that came out of my own mouth. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. He's coming to help me again.
He's coming to talk to me. She's up. You got to look up. The camera's up. Put your head up there. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to bite your finger.
Listening to your voice.
Thank you, Keegan.
Oh.
Well, what's the wrestling part? What is it that you're wrestling? What's the wrestling feeling?
No, I'm done with
If I gave you a list, would that satisfy your brain?
I don't know. I really don't know if it would or not, to be honest, because apparently it is just my brain, because like I said, I really felt stillness. Now, like aside from, and it's still there, that tightness and that feeling of, is still there. But other than that, it's a stillness. So it's got to be the brain saying, well, have I made the grade? Is there something else I got to do? Am I doing it right? I mean, that's the only thing I can figure at this point.
So it's a judgment and a self-worthness.
Apparently, yes. I mean, I have through the last year and a half, 2 years, well, maybe even 3, really been trying to look at everything about myself, shadows, all that kind of stuff, to work through stuff. And as it comes up, I have felt very fortunate to have Lisa and her dad and my sister and all kinds of folks in my life that are helping me look at these things and work through a thing, come to self-realizations about things. And so I feel as though I've been doing the internal work, but then again, okay, so it is probably a portion of the brain, because it's like, what do I measure it against? What's the measure? And I don't know that there is one. Obviously, I am a fractal of source. So there's not a measuring stick big enough. Right? I mean, because if it's all that is, which it is, then that's a huge ass measuring stick, and I don't have one that big. So
remember, I in some iteration of conversations with you, I shared the epiphany story that I had eons ago in the 80s of it's not an intellectual exercise.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes.
So it's not an intellectual exercise. You can't.
And I keep trying to turn it into one.
Yes, you can't.
Right.
Now, the mind, the brain, the cognitive flow and ability, which is actually being far enhanced than what it was before, even if we thought we had, our individual one was pretty advanced before, it's becoming much more advanced, but it's working in a different way. There's a different sequence of events. It's not the leader of the show, but it's an incredibly important aspect of all of that.
Right.
So perhaps for you in particular, that is a really good way to say and have some conversations. Go for a walk and have some conversations with your mind that says, look, you've got a really important role to play and you need to start lifting some weights and getting in shape for this. It's going to come a little differently. It's going to sequencing of events and how the processing goes will be a little bit different, but you have an important role and it's much bigger than you ever thought you had before. So actually, even though you're not really leading the show anymore, the role you have to play and the significance of it is far greater than it was when you were just a tiny little mind that I've lost right here in this body, physical body, which is now becoming an embodiment of my soul coming in this whole ascension in body process.
Right.
So you've got, and this is all you talking to your mind, so you pride yourself on being quick and sharp and have a spark and having all this capability and being able to sync up and line up all these things and also let the creative flow in. Great. Well, get with it because we're doing this on a cosmic, multiverse, multidimensional level. And you bet we need that right now, but so stop kibitzing over here on the little small role you were playing and step up. There's that word again. Step up to the big role you've got to play.
Do it for real now.
Right. And it's in a slightly configuration in a much expanded way. That's the irony.
Love that.
So that the mind really isn't losing anything. It's gaining a whole lot of what it likes to do. It's just when it's up in a snot-nosed kid and a whiny brat all at once and the stamp my foot, that it can't look at all that. But it's for a mind perspective, just for a moment, and all the stuff that it's just about to jump into, it's pretty outrageously, bodaciously cool. And if it would only look there, and you need to help it look there, it could start to realize that.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes, it does. And actually, I think it heard you. You know what I mean? I
got it, yeah.
It's getting excited now, too.
Well, that's who I was talking to, so I was hoping and then it would get through.
Yeah, okay.
Now, so bring back a moment, not only for the three of us, but all others on this call. And Lisa had the beautiful saying she had about thinking of her body, and each one was a cell, and each one was the universe within the cell, and so on and so on and so forth. So it would then make sense to have a conversation directly with your brain, which is that universe, which has this thing, but don't pick up the battle. Don't say, oh, you got to be, just say, look, you say you want this. Well, look at all of that you say you want, but you're too busy over here wrestling with this to look at that, and you're not doing anything. So what's up? Right?
Yeah, what is that? What is up with that?
But anytime we get into the fighting or the pushing away or any of that kind of stuff, we just, set up a thing for chasing our tails. And so come in with a deep breath, come in with some compassion. And again, use the languaging that's being brought to you and look at it from an observer perspective. So we're bringing those three parts of what we're doing, what we spoke about a minute ago, of how we're all going to start to see things and experience things, right? Bring that into how you're having that conversation and connection. So that coherence, that conversation and connection, the actual flow when you're talking directly to your mind who's, getting all worked up about this kind of stuff, and say, well, I heard you say, just like you do on this, on your show here. Well, I heard you say X, Y, and Z, and you bring it back. Well, I heard you mind that you said, this, that, and the other thing, and this is where we're going, and this is what's happening, and so on and so forth. And are you doing that?
It is time for the heart to inform the mind of what's going on here, because it is clueless.
Yeah.
sometimes when I am hearing the conversations about the heart informing the mind and that sort of thing. Okay, so like earlier you said for me that I lost my mind. That was part of that sickness and the medication thing. And I have often wondered if, because sometimes I feel like I'm confused, like I don't get it, the difference between the heart and the head, right? The heart and the mind. And then at other times I feel as though it's my mind trying to make too much out of it, that I'm already doing that. So I'm either jumping in and out of that where, oh, pardon me. I'm either jumping in and out of that or no, that must be what's happening. I'm jumping out of the heart and into the mind, or sometimes it's already taking place where it isn't doing it, but I think it's not. You know what I mean?
You're already doing a lot of this. You're just not conforming to the label that you had pre-assigned to have it look like.
Well, see, I've wondered that. I have wondered exactly that.
And that's why, and this is essential, so listen, everybody who's listening, listen carefully. You are the expert. Experience lots of things, partake in lots of things, tone with lots of things, but it always comes back to you because you're that individualization of source that's had those things so in that whole feed, of the feed of information, the television feed, or however you want to think of it, right? Going back to source, because source, right, wants to know source. And so you've gone forth to know source. So on this feed, on this channel, on this signature vibration that you hold, that carrier wave, right, that's important within that to do that. So if you're looking here and going, well, that's an interesting signature, energy signature and carrier wave over there, so I'm going to do that, but you're not that. So you can have experience of it, you can commingle with it, you can come into a coherence with it, you can reject it outright, you can take, but so you can be in a dance with that, but nonetheless, you're still this singularity that you are.
Right. So sometimes, okay. So that's really starting to make better sense to me in my perception, in the way that I'm trying to label a certain thing. Because I had suspected that it was something that I might already be doing, but I was trying to label it in such a way, and it wasn't. Okay. No, I see where that, yeah. And then the only reason that doubt comes into play is because of not trusting myself. So.
Yeah, that and part of a test. It's my phrase. I use the cab. I use the cab driver. The cab comes around and goes, want to get in? And you go, yeah, because you've forgotten, because you're not paying attention, because you're in your head. And you get in the cab and you go a block and a half and you're like, what am I doing here again? I've been around this neighborhood. I don't like this neighborhood. Hurry up. And so now when the cab is saying, no, I got it. Thanks. I'm good. And it's that simple and that difficult. Because when you get in the door and you close the door, the cab won't stop until you go all the way around the thing. You go, right? It's like, but.
Okay, so this has been very helpful for me. Thank you both so much.
So Lisa, on that part.
Yes.
For where Sheila said, okay, so it's something I've already been doing, but I haven't recognized it. Are you seeing a similar thing with you, or have you already have a knowing that you're doing those things combined.
What do you mean? I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Well, Sheila had mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing, so she was separating it out. Her ego mind was doing one thing and her heart was doing another. And I was saying that the heart leads and the mind comes in and has a very expansive, supportive role in that, and a
Right.
role. And so the big illumination of the toning there was that it's something I'm already doing. I just was labeling it something else. So I wasn't seeing that there was that connection, that was that flow. So
Because you've actually said that to me, Lisa, too. Yes, you do know what you're doing. Or yes, you're already doing that.
Yes.
it made me think back to when we were talking before and you talked about the divine masculine, and it only comes online sometimes.
Oh, okay. Well, what I meant, I knew it came online and it's here, and it is. What I meant was it activates. Well, I said it activates, and what I meant was it comes to the forefront and it informs a thing. Like it not takes over, but I allow it to inform my mind what's happening, sort of. I allow it to, so usually there's a catalyst that will make it amp up or come forward. So not so much that I know it's always there, but I am seeing it's leading now. Yes. And I'm trying to allow this and to because I know it's coming from my heart. And yeah, so I'm trying to allow my mind to take a back seat and, not be driving the show, but looking out the window and, like I'm trying to, I look at my ego as a small child who's learning, and I'm trying to treat it, I'm a nanny. So that's my perspective. I try to treat it like I would a child that I'm trying to inform of something, sort of in a loving, compassionate, like I'll distract my ego and go, oh, well, let's see what happens next, and try to allow that part of me that's on board now to take the lead instead of trying to control it or stick it in a box. I'm trying to allow it to inform all of me what's going to happen next, because honestly, I don't really know. I mean, I have a knowing.
You don't, but there's a difference. You don't know up here, but you're
right.
Knowing in here.
Yes. And my heart doesn't say, this is what will be taking place over the next year and a half. Probably because I would argue with that. So I do know that my heart knows what it's doing, and I'm trying to surrender to that. And I'm calling this maneuver that I'm working on embracing the mystery. Because my mind wants to know. I don't like surprises, and I want to know so I can control it, see? So I'm trying to relinquish that need to control how this goes down with small me, and let the small me marvel at what the big me has planned. Because I know that I planned it on some level, and I try to get frustrated sometimes because I don't know. The little me can't get in there and start messing with it. So yeah, I'm trying to embrace the mystery of it and know that I know what I'm doing, and it's okay that my little mind has no idea what's happening.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And it's a co-creative adventure. So
okay,
what may have been planned out isn't what flows out, because as each is growing and expanding, it's a completely different thing. Like, for instance, if you're cooking and there's a recipe and you follow the recipe, but I feel more like putting a little bit more lemon in there, or a little bit more, or a dash of nutmeg or something like that, And
Sure.
so, yeah, sometimes it could be, oh, okay, well, that didn't work out so good, but oftentimes it's really very good. Now, is it like what the original recipe was? No, probably not. But if you're not sitting down going, well, this was that, something or other that I had before, or my grandmother's, or whatever it is, but just this is something I created. And it was perfect because you let yourself play with the creation. So in other words, something came up in you and your taste buds and you were thinking, and, it could be a memory of something. It could be, a thought. There's lots of different triggers that come up. And in playing with it, that's the thing. There is huge value and huge sensory gratification in doing that. And sometimes, and a lot of times, you'll get the whole enchilada because you have you acknowledge all the experience, and you sit down and eat it. It's really good too.
Yes.
So one of the reasons that you cook and then eat things is, yes, to eat something, because you're hungry, but and why do you not just eat, what are those rice crackers that even my Labrador wouldn't even eat? So that told me, right?
Yeah.
And labs will eat anything, right? So you're doing it because you want that sensory fulfillment.
Yes.
Well, that's what we're doing right now, is that sensory fulfillment. So one of the reasons that in a lot of literature and information you'll hear, well, you don't need the same kinds of food or as much food because your sustenance comes from someplace else, because that creative value, the sustenance that's sensory and could be, so all the senses and senses beyond the five senses, is part of that nourishment. It's part of that thing that fills you up. Haven't you heard the saying that it just filled me up?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, then look about all of our programming that has been designed to empty us out as far as the filling me up sense of the emotions and all that kind of stuff. And no wonder we stuff food in our mouth, because we're trying to get filled up. We just don't realize that the filling up is the heart overflowing and that expansive, delightful thing. We just think we keep putting stuff in our mouth,
Right.
Which doesn't fill us up at all. In fact,
it's not satisfying. No. Yeah.
So that's kind of a really good metaphor for everything we've talked about today and where we're going, and that rise in energy. So yeah, there may be moments, as these energies rise, as the grace period is closing, as all of these things are unfolding and the comes, that it may be fearful, or it may be scary, or it may be challenging, or it may be uncomfortable, or it may be a downright, wow, that hurt kind of a thing, and a combination thereof, and all of those combined. And it also, is going to be wonderful and amazing, and I never had any idea, and well, I couldn't have even thought about this, and I imagined some pretty fantastic, far out things, It's a combination of all of those as well. So if you can be the observer and trust and in your knowing that, before in the other conversation the three of us did, and Sheila was, really upset and really kind of struggling because her brain was listening to her brain, which it was fear and all upset. And she said, I know I'm okay. So that is actually a real revelation, right? That moment. So when these different things that I've kind of laid out as possibilities, if you can get to the, I know I'm okay, fantastic. And the rest will fall into place. The rest will come because you're creating it. The big you and the totality of you is creating it, and we're all creating it together. So just I'll end by saying that's kind of what the call is on Tuesday about. But that's why this is the time of knowing and trust and compassion for ourselves, for each other right here on the call, for all the other each others who listen to this call, all the ones out there that we haven't even met yet, for all the, and each of us have this, for all of the different family members or circle, however you want to describe that, that looked at us for years and gone, oh, okay, well, she's just, we don't, nice of it. We don't, right? But now is the time, I know that you've read in all your travels or heard the oft said phrase, well, there will be a time when they're going to come back around and knock on your door. You know what?
Yeah, it's starting to happen.
Yeah,
I put out a blog. Just I've not advertised it because it's still a work in process, and but I felt, Paul, my heart said, put it out now. Today is the day. Just start. And so I'm still working on it, and it's just going up, right? Well, somebody from my past, my old world, the old pool I used to swim in, started writing a blog, and I can see she's waking up, and she's actually my daughter's age. She's someone that my daughter danced with for years, so I know her whole family, and it was, let me just say, quite unexpected. And I encouraged her, and I said, she wrote a blog, and I said, don't stop writing. The world needs your words.
Right.
This is really important. And she said, wow, thank you. I needed to hear that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I know you did. And I got an email last night that she subscribed and she found my blog and subscribed. And I put it out there with the intention not to advertise, because I wanted it to be magnetically attracted. I wanted, when you were ready, the material would be there, and I envision that as I write it, and I still do that, and that began last night. So that felt really exciting to me.
Yeah, just for the record, that's different than your Heart Song Musings, because
Yes.
that is a different blog.
Yes. Yeah, not advertised at all.
Right. And I too have been contacted by folks that I've known a very long time that wanted to come and sit and have, well, what turned into about a 4-hour conversation.
With the two of us.
Right. I was a little concerned that I might have.
Okay, their legs were like rubber when they walked out the door, right?
Yeah, no, a couple of times I could just.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, where do you even begin?
Yeah, well, that's why their frame of reference, their perception and perspective that they hold, because someone can ask you a question, and if their perspective and perception is over here, especially if they're asking me that question, I'll go, well, what's your perspective on this? Because otherwise, I mean, I just may just blow your mind right off the top of your shoulders, and it's out the door.
Which I am
guilty.
concerned that I may have done, because yeah, where does one begin?
Well, you didn't, because they were there for 4 hours.
Well, okay, but I haven't heard from her since. So
She's probably still asleep and integrating, right? Clearing, and integrating. So
well,
don't worry about it.
yes, and believe me, the one place that I did point her was the IUV too. So yeah, probably so.
But all those things that you talk about, doing a blog or creating a meme, or there's so many different ways to do that. But if you have just a thought about that, go do it right now. Go start something. Go feel in the groove and do different things. Have a conversation with people, and again, you don't need to be selling. Did you know that there's X number of sealed indictments? It's not selling anything. It's just being who you are and showing, like I shared that story about talking about a rainbow and the colors, and let the person do it. So there's so many things that you can let your true way of communicating and connecting come through. That's not a big thing. It's a small everyday thing. And
Yes.
they experience that, and it opens them to look at, it opens them. And then they look and they see something slightly differently. And then it goes on.
Right.
Yeah, that's where my new blog came from. I couldn't wait. I had to get that out, and I had to say it now. So yeah, I feel that. And I'm practicing acting right now in that moment and really following my inspiration, and it's really awesome.
Awesome.
Just the most exciting things are now really,
and that's part of that, building that trust. Remember, we talked about trust being both ways. So someone says, I'm tuning into my heart or my guides or my higher self or my soul, and I got nothing, right? Back to shit. I can think of other conversations I've had this with many people. But so what have you invested in what you have heard, even if it was little and subtle and soft, right? When it was a thought to do this or this, or look at this, or play with this, or whatever, the thing, did you do it? Did you play with it? Did you think about it? Did you feel into it? Did you? No, I'm busy. I'm later.
Right.
Okay. Well, then don't get mad when you have nothing, because they had nothing, and they're like, well, okay, I guess they're not ready, or they don't want to pay attention, or they don't want to stay on the earth, or,
Yeah.
It's a free will choice.
Right.
You got to wake up to it. It works both ways. So if you're not there when you hear it, they're not going to, it's not like the linear ego mind world of, force. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Right.
But don't complain.
Yeah,
Right.
can't have it both ways.
Right. So when that small, soft, subtle little voice says, hey, why don't you go and color something? Then that's what is the inspiration in the moment. And it could be the next most informative masterpiece you've ever done.
Yes. So this is very important because the chatter is off the charts in my head, and I'm meaning it's people chattering now.
Yes.
But you don't understand. I got a job. I got this. Okay, great. So we already Todd gave you some examples how I do it with the phone and the memo and the note. But color or something. Well, you can color because you're, a creator being. You can color if you're at work. Take a moment, take a part of your brain, stay completely focused on what you're doing or what you have to do with work, and color over here in your ethereal colors, and then come back later when you have some time and let the photocopy machine in you bring it out. So every time you use an excuse like that, because it's an excuse. I'm sorry. Yes. It's an excuse. Mm-hmm. So we got to be real, because the window's closing and we don't have time for not being real anymore. Yeah. Because we've been so unreal for so long that we're waking up to that was our reality, and it's all falling away.
Yeah, because if you can work and listen to the radio or whatever at the same time, or if you can work and talk to someone else at the same time, then you can work and color in your brain, in your mind at the same time, to use that example.
Yeah, or whatever right,
that is an excuse.
If you're making, music, or you're a musician, or any of those or a writer, any of those kinds of things, because so here's an example that's popping into my head. When I was writing my book, and I would go and I would be working on something, and then I would be told, take the dogs, go for a walk. Okay, fine. I'd go for a walk. Wouldn't even consciously thinking about the book and so on and so forth. I would be going and having a great time, whether it was on the beach or wherever it was, and I'd come back and I'd sit down and I'd put my hands by the computer and I'd say, okay, give me the chapter, whatever it was that I wrote when I was out there, and it would just flow. So the book wrote me. It's like when I was taking my daughters, when I lived on the East Coast and writing the book, and I was sitting down, we lived on the vineyard, and so, we'd go off in the wintertime to go to a hotel with pool or something. We were in Boston and playing, and I was sitting down, the kids were playing in the pool, and I just had a pad to doodle on or whatever, to do nothing with or something with, and the thought was, you're writing a book. And I said, okay, well, that's news to me. Okay. Right. Not why, not what, not okay. And went back to whatever I was doing. And then, pencil, no. So start doodling. No. So all this is coming through me instead of arguing or whatever. It's just, okay. And then the title comes out. I said, okay, guess I'm writing the book. Okay. Any help behind this? Oh yeah, no problem. So, it varied from the moment of sitting in that chaise lounge to the time of, taking it to the printer was in amongst being a wife and a mother and having a full-time job and of my own business, and which, is even worse than working for somebody else and all that kind of stuff. I think it was 5 months. So
okay, so
that's the way it works.
Now I'm hearing
That's amazing.
Now I'm hearing the chatter, or perhaps it's just me. Are you going to share with us the title of this book?
Oh.
And is it available?
Yeah, I think you can get used copies, out there. It's called The Soul of Success.
The Soul of Success?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Well, I had to ask that.
As an example is that all these things will happen when you're doing something else, either something you have to do or you want to do or whatever it is.
Right. No, I
you actually can create more hours in the day, more space in the day for doing things, because time really is just a false construct. But you're punishing yourself every time you come up with one of those excuses. And in this next phase that we're in right this moment, and it's already gone up now, it's gonna, right? On 12/12, the phrase of you're punishing yourself is really gonna come home to roost. When, because that's the way it is. And we knew this going in. And we agreed to this going in. And we're the ones steering the ship. And we are all in this together.
And we are okay.
We are, well, we're a damn sight better than okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do calm myself with that. Everything's okay. I'm okay. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I do that, I can feel that all of me back that statement up, and I feel fabulous. And then whatever was concerning me or had me swirly works out right before my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the more you can just go with it. So if the thought comes, write some memes and post them on Facebook.
Okay.
And we'll play with this for a minute. A meme? What the hell is a meme? I don't know how to write a meme. I don't even know what a meme is. What do you mean? A meme. Got it. Okay. Great. Do you draw it on a piece of paper? Are you good on the computer with, the little paint program? How do you cut and paste things to clipboards? So I'm not an artist. I don't do this. The whole laundry list, just say, thank you very much. I'm sitting here. And you know what? You will figure it out. At least you have the phrase about that. It'll come to you. You'll see something that'll spark it. Or you see a phrase or a quote or some words and you put it on a background. And that, it doesn't have to be what your ego mind is now churning. And, well, I'm not a graphic artist and I'm not a...
Right. I do that.
Because that's all programming. Anytime you're triggered like that, that's all a really good indication that that's an old program running and this is your chance to integrate. And as you go do that and you play with it and you make, just using this meme example, you make that thing and you post it. But in that, you have now shown that you're listening, that you're open, that you're got the prompting, and that you are trusting that prompting, and the prompting, so your soul can trust you that, hey, there's this partnership, there's this flow, there's this coherence, there's this whole creative, toroidal, expansive flow. And so something else will come in, something else will come in. And if you start to get frustrated, just using this example, that meme, right, something else will flow in. You go, oh, but I can do, and you ought to do whatever that is. And as soon as you started and trusted, you won't be saying, I got nothing, because you got so many somethings. You're like, hang on a minute. I got them 500 million deep here, man. And I, okay, well, I'll do that. I mean, that's really the way it works.
No, you're right about that, because that actually happened to me as I was driving along today. I had a big inspiration come to me for something that I'm going to be creating. The only reason I haven't done it now is because we're here, but I've been creating it in my mind already. So I've already got it down. All I got to do is just begin it first thing in the morning. But I've been creating it,
yes,
already. So I get that.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Yes.
And the resonance, the coherence that's here in this in that energy envelope field that is actually adding to what you're creating, because it's enhancing your ability to expand on that. I'm not saying that it's at all connected to this. I'm just saying that,
right,
that flow energy, builds the muscles, builds the streams, builds the flexibility and the inspiration strengths.
Right. No, I'm actually quite excited about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, ladies, I really appreciate it. This has been a much longer video than I've ever done. And I thank you both for joining me. And I want you guys to stay right there. There will be a link to Heart Song Musings in the body of this video in the Show More section, along with a link to BZ's blog, the IUV, and a link to join the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page. I wanted to thank you too, BZ, for reminding me to ask folks to please comment on these videos. What are you experiencing when you listen to the videos? I do read the comments, and my email address will also be in the Show More section of this video. Feel free to reach out and contact me for any reason at all. I do respond to all emails as well.
And before you hit the record off button, I'm just going to interject right here. If one gets a nudge to comment and they let that motion go by, that commenting is that creative force, because that comment and sharing of it was you trusting your nudge, but it's a gift that you're giving to someone else who may be wandering by or something, they see it. So all these things come in all different little tiny ones, big things, and the comment is just one example of some of them.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I do love to hear from folks. So, don't hesitate on that score. There'll be a subscribe button here, and like and share the video if you feel so led. And also, do go to the IUV site, as BZ is. It's okay to say that, right? I mean, I put it out on Facebook too. You're going to be doing a call on 12/12. So
come play.
Yes, come play. Lisa and I will both be there as well, and look forward